Right now, Denver home sellers are getting blindsided, and not by something you'd expect. I'm talking about a growing issue that's killing deals, lowering offers, and catching homeowners completely off guard. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly what's happening in the Denver housing market right now and why it's blindsiding so many sellers and homeowners. From a shocking surge in inventory to buyers backing out and homes dropping in value, I'll walk you through the 6 key shifts every seller needs to know. I'm Landon, a local realtor here in Denver for the last decade, and I make videos all about life here in Denver. And I can tell you this video is not something you'll want to ignore. Let's take a closer look. Denver's housing inventory has surged by 99.6% compared to historical averages. Active listings reached 12,400 homes in April of 2025 compared to the historical average of 5,158. Inventory levels are now at their highest point in a decade since the Great Recession. Denver County alone has over 3,100 active listings. We now have twice the inventory compared to this time last year. I want you to imagine walking into a store that's been having constant shortages for years, where customers would literally fight over the last item on the shelf. And then suddenly overnight, every shelf is fully stocked. That's exactly what's happened in Denver's housing market. So when I'm driving clients around different neighborhoods, the change is visually obvious. For sale signs are everywhere. In some areas that were absolute feeding frenzies just a year ago, you'll now see multiple homes for sale on a single block. Breaking it down by county, Denver County itself has over 3,100 active listings right now. Arapahoe County has more than 2,000. Jefferson County has 1,600 homes sitting on the market. These are numbers we haven't seen since the Great Recession. What's driving this inventory explosion? It's actually coming from multiple directions. We've got homeowners who are waiting for the perfect time to sell, all deciding to list at once. We've got investors who are reading the market signals and deciding to cash out. And we've also got new construction finally catching up after years of supply chain issues. For years, buyers have been conditioned to make split-second decisions and offer over asking price just to have a chance. Now they're walking into a market where they can actually take their time, compare multiple properties, and even negotiate on price. I had a client last week who had been house hunting for over a year. We'd lost out on 7 different properties despite offering over asking each time. And now we're looking at 5 different homes that all meet her criteria. And sellers are calling us back, asking if she's still interested. The tables have completely turned. While the inventory explosion might sound like great news for buyers, it's actually creating a completely different problem that nobody saw coming, and that is vanishing buyers and an affordability crisis. Affordability has decreased significantly with higher interest rates. You have to remember, in 2022, we went from a 2.5% average interest rate up to a 5.5% average interest rate in 3 months, the highest interest rate hike in history. And so now that that's up around 7%, it's continued to climb over the last 3 years. Here in 2025, we are in an affordability crisis. And the average payment has gone from around $2,800 to closer to $5,200 for an average home in our market. Denver County has seen 41.9% of listings with price reduction. Homes are taking much longer to sell than they did a year ago. Right now, our current average days on market is around 45 days. First-time home buyers have been particularly impacted by affordability challenges. That segment of the market has almost dropped off the map. The average home buyer in today's market is around 56 years old, where the average seller is around 63 years old. So the majority of people that are moving right now are the baby boomers that have a lot of equity built up in their homes, and interest rates aren't affecting them as greatly as the millennials and the Gen Zs and Gen Xs. Many buyers are taking the wait and see approach. I can't tell you how many times we've started with a buyer that's been excited about getting into a home, and then they push the brakes, for one reason or another, usually due to a financial reason. You'd think with all this inventory, buyers would be swarming the market, but that's not what's happening at all. Instead, we're seeing something almost surreal. Homes sitting empty during showings, open houses with 0 visitors, and sellers calling me in a panic, wondering where all the buyers went. The reality is that we're experiencing an affordability crisis here in Denver. A typical Denver home that might have been affordable with lower interest rates now requires a significantly higher monthly payment. This payment shock has forced many buyers to either lower their price range or exit the market entirely. I'm seeing this play out in real time with my clients. I was working with a young couple who were pre-approved for a home last year. They decided to wait a few months to save a larger down payment. When they came back to the market this spring, their purchasing power had decreased substantially simply because of rate increases. Suddenly, the neighborhoods they were targeting were completely out of reach. The psychological impact is huge. Even buyers who can technically afford today's prices are hesitant to pull the trigger. There's a widespread feeling that if they wait, they might get a better deal. And that wait-and-see attitude is creating a self-reinforcing cycle that's further cooling the market. With buyers vanishing and inventory piling up, sellers are facing a harsh new reality that's forcing them to make some painful decisions. I'm talking about the price reduction wave. If you've been watching the Denver market lately, you've probably noticed a wave of price cuts spreading across the city. We're seeing price reductions at levels we haven't experienced in years. And it's happening in every neighborhood across the metro area. The numbers tell a shocking story. In Arapahoe County, at least 50% of all active listings have already had at least one price reduction. That's 1 out of every 2 homes on the market. Denver County isn't far behind with 41.9% of listings cutting prices, and Jefferson County is seeing 36.7% of homes reduce their asking price. What's even more surprising is that many homes aren't just getting a single price cut. They're getting multiple price reductions before finally attracting a buyer. I listed a home in a popular neighborhood last month at what we thought was a reasonable price based on recent comps. After 2 weeks of only 3 showings, we reduced the price. 2 more weeks and minimal interest led to another cut. It finally went under contract after a 3rd reduction. Even with these price reductions, sellers are still facing a market reality check. After all the price drops, homes are typically selling for about 98% of their final list price. This means buyers are still negotiating additional discounts even after the reductions. The emotional toll on sellers has been significant. Many listed their homes expecting the same frenzied market conditions we saw during the pandemic, with multiple offers and prices bid up over asking. Instead, they're facing weeks or months of silence, followed by the difficult conversation about reducing their price. For sellers who absolutely need to sell in this market, we're having to adapt our pricing strategies completely. Rather than listing at market value or significantly above, as we did in recent years, successful sellers are now pricing below recent comps to generate immediate interest. This price ahead of the market strategy is uncomfortable for many sellers, but it's proving effective in getting homes sold while others linger. The solution? If you're serious about selling in today's market, you need to price your home realistically from day one. The data shows that homes priced correctly from the start sell faster and often for more money than homes that start too high and require multiple reductions. Buyers see those price cuts as weakness and tend to negotiate even harder. While price reductions are grabbing headlines, there's another major shift happening that's forcing sellers to completely rethink how they prepare their homes for sale. I'm talking about the return of home preparation. So when we only had 2,000 homes on the market, you could have old carpet, you could have paint with dings in it, right? That maybe wasn't in style back then. And buyers just needed a house. They had so few options to choose from that they would forego, a lot of things just to get into a home and get those keys. Nowadays, things are very different. Buyers are incredibly selective because they can be. With 12,400 homes on the market, there's plenty to choose from. Sellers no more have the advantage. We're actually entered into a buyer's market. At that 12,000 home mark, economists say that is where we cross over into a buyer's market. So we're there right now. And in those cases, buyers are not willing to overlook outdated features in homes, right? And it's the cosmetics that draw that emotional appeal in buyers. And so they're looking for stainless steel appliances. They're looking for quartz counters. They're looking for a nice backsplash. They're typically looking for cabinets that are painted white or redone or refaced potentially. They're looking for LVP Luxe vinyl plank flooring that's light and bright. Features that are too dark often feel drab for buyers in this market. Light and bright is the key as far as style goes in today's market. So I would say still the most important home prep elements that will help you if you are a seller are carpet, paint, and appliances. I think number 4 is counters. There's a drastic difference between like a red tile countertop to a smooth white quartz with gray veins running through it. It's just night and day as far as the buyer's overall emotional experience when they go through a home. So most of the sellers that I am meeting with end up spending anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000 in home prep, and some more than that, some $25,000 to $40,000, depending on the size of the home and what kind of needs we have. And usually we're doubling or tripling their money on what they spend based on improving that, creating that emotional appeal, which is very underrated. So that when buyers see the house, they fall in love and they think, man, I can't get this anywhere else. I've got to have this house. That's the mentality that you want buyers to have as they're walking through homes. Every home is different. So it's really important that you call me. Make sure to see my number below here so that I can reach out, and I'm happy to go through and do a walkthrough with you to establish the best things that we can do for your house so that you can get the best return on investment. There are tired homes in our market that would have sold quickly 2 or 3 years ago, and now they're just sitting unsold for months. Buyers are demanding move-in ready type properties and significant price discounts at times. And homes needing updates are selling for less than updated comparable properties. Pre-listing investments in cosmetic updates are seeing strong returns more than ever. Professional staging has become essential rather than optimal. We've entered into a new era of extreme buyer selectivity, where home preparation has suddenly become make or break for sellers. The market data is crystal clear on this point. Homes that are well prepared, professionally staged, and move-in ready are still selling relatively quick. But properties that need updates or come to market in lived-in condition, they're sitting for months with minimal interest, ultimately selling for significantly less than their updated counterparts. The biggest mindset shift for sellers is understanding that in today's market, buyers are no longer willing to see past cosmetic issues or overlook needed updates. Every flaw becomes a negotiation point, or worse, a reason to skip viewing the home altogether. The solution is clear: investing strategically in your home before listing. Focus on the cosmetic updates that create emotional appeal. Professional staging, photography, and video are no longer optional luxuries. They're essential marketing tools. In a market where buyers have choices, your home needs to stand out as the obvious best option. All of these market shifts are contributing to perhaps the most shocking change of all, a complete reversal in the timing of when to sell in Denver. I'm talking about the critical timing window and seasonality. So it used to be back in the day, the best window to sell was usually between May and July. And nowadays, I think it's because so many sellers during the pandemic, during that time frame, would sell and then they would rent their house back for 60 days, which created a 60-day longer window. Nowadays, everything's pushed forward a couple months. So the selling season actually starts in February, and we see the most action happening between February and April. That shift has happened because I think people are really starting to get ahead of things, plan ahead so that they can get their home sold, get situated in their new home, and then be settled in time to still maybe enjoy a vacation and get back to school. Or whatever else they do once the fall comes. So if you're a seller, you may want to be on the front end of that in the market and have your home ready in February before inventory climbs to higher levels. This year in February, we only had about 7,000 homes. And right now we've got over 12,000 in this time in June. And so it's really important to, factor that in, that there's a lower supply and buyers are starting to wake up early compared to how they used to. And so it's key to get your home ready at the beginning of springtime so that you can maximize your selling season. The prime selling window has narrowed from February all the way through June. Homes that miss the prime window often sit until the following spring. There's what we call a summer lull in the market, where we have this gap between the 4th of July and about Labor Day, or a couple weeks after Labor Day, where the market gets really soft. And the reason is because a lot of families and home buyers are prepping for back to school. They're out enjoying the beautiful weather because we have some cold seasons during the year, but when the weather's nice, people want to be outside. They want to be at the lake. They want to be enjoying, themselves on hikes and biking and all the other fun things that you do here in Denver area. And so they're not focused on real estate as much as they are in the early spring. The market slows significantly in late summer to fall. Timing has become more critical than the previous years. Seasonality impacts both price and time on market. Timing has always mattered in real estate, but in today's shifting Denver market, it's become absolutely critical. The data shows that we now have a much narrower prime selling window than we've seen in years past. Homes listed during this period are seeing significantly more activity, shorter days on market, and stronger final sales prices compared to homes listed later in the year. I watched this play out with my own listings. A home I listed in early March had 15 showings in the first weekend and went under contract within 10 days. A very similar property in the same neighborhood, listed in late July, had just 3 showings in the first 2 weeks and took over 45 days to sell, and for a lower price. What happens if you miss this prime window? Unfortunately, many homes end up sitting on the market for extended periods, often requiring significant price reductions to attract buyers. In some cases, sellers end up pulling their homes off the market and waiting until the following spring to try again. This seasonal pattern creates a real challenge for sellers who need to move during off-peak times. The solution? If you have flexibility with your timing, aim to list your home during that February to June window, and preferably towards the beginning part of it. If you're currently in the off season and need to sell, you'll need to be especially aggressive with pricing and preparation to stand out from your competition. And if you're planning ahead for next year, start your preparation now so you're ready to hit the market as soon as that prime window opens. Okay, so now that we understand the 5 major shocks hitting Denver's housing market, let's talk about what that means for you and what specific actions you should take. When we talk about your action plans, what solutions do we have here in today's market? So here's a recap and some things that you should consider. Proper pricing from day one is more critical than ever. Home preparation has become essential, not optional. Timing your listing for that February to June window is optimal, especially towards the earlier part of that window. Buyers have more negotiating power than they've had in years since the Great Recession. Working with an agent who understands the shifting market is crucial. So what does all this mean for you? Whether you're buying or selling in Denver right now, you need a completely different strategy than what worked even a year ago. If you're a seller in today's market, here's your action plan. First, be realistic about pricing from day one. The data is clear. Homes priced correctly at the start sell faster and often for more money than those that require multiple reductions. Look at the most recent comparable sales, not what your neighbor got last year or during the pandemic. We're seeing about 98% of final list price on average. So build that expectation into your planning. Second, invest strategically in preparation. Focus on the cosmetic updates that create emotional appeal. Neutral fresh paint, updated flooring, modern fixtures, and kitchen refreshes such as quartz counters and backsplashes that typically yield the highest returns. Professional staging is no longer optional on a vacant home. It's essential. The cost of proper preparation is almost always less than your first price reduction would be. Third, time your listing strategically if possible. If you can wait for that February to June window, you're likely to see activity, stronger offers. If you need to sell during the off season, you'll need to be even more aggressive with pricing and preparation to stand out. For buyers, this market shift presents opportunities you haven't seen in years. Now you have time to make thoughtful decisions rather than rush ones. Use this to your advantage by thoroughly inspecting properties and researching neighborhoods. Also, negotiation is back on the table. Don't be afraid to ask for seller concessions, which are seller paid buyer closing costs. Also, repairs or price reductions, especially on homes that have been sitting on the market for a while. Consider homes that had been listed for 30 plus days. These sellers are often the most motivated and willing to make deals. Also, look at properties slightly above your price range. With nearly half of the listings seeing price reductions, a home initially out of reach might become affordable after that cut. Whether buying or selling, working with an agent who understands the shifting market is more important than ever. The strategies that worked during the pandemic frenzy simply don't apply anymore. You need someone who can navigate these new waters with current data and adaptive strategy. The Denver market is changing rapidly, but with the right approach, you can still achieve your real estate goals. Let me show you how I can help. If you're thinking about buying or selling in this shifting Denver market, don't navigate it alone. I've helped dozens of clients successfully adapt to these new conditions. Text or call me at the number on your screen for a no obligation consultation where we'll analyze your specific situation and develop a customized strategy. The market has changed. Make sure your approach changes with it. And if you want to avoid the biggest money traps in Denver real estate, don't miss my next video. Never buy these types of homes in Denver. I break down specific properties you need to steer clear of and why they're causing headaches for so many buyers right now. Click here and I'll see you there.